Okay, here is a video for today's goal. We're going to be identifying slope in the y-intercept from equations. We're going to be dealing with equations that have y equal mx plus b. M is going to stand for the slope. B is going to stand for the y-intercept. And remember, the y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. So we're going to write equations if I give you the slope and the y-intercept, and then we're also going to write the equation of a line from a graph. So let's take some quick notes. So identify the slope and then the y-intercept of the following equations. So we know that the slope is right next to your variable, so my slope would be 1/2. So you do not write x, you just write the number in front of the x. And then your y-intercept, I'm going to abbreviate that, would be at the very end of the problem, which would be a -3. And that is all you do. So why don't you pause and try 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll go over the answers. Answers for 2 through 4. So I got slope was a -6, and then your y-intercept was a -3. Over here, slope was a -1/4, intercept was a +2, and then over here, intercept was a -2, and slope was a +1/4. So that is how you find slope and y-intercept in an equation. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to write the slope-intercept form of the equation if I give you the slope and the y-intercept. So remember, I want something that looks like y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to start with y equals, and then you're going to write your slope. So you're going to write your slope right down here, and you're going to put an x behind your slope, and then you're going to put your y-intercept right here, and since it was a 2, I will put a +2. So that is my equation in slope-intercept form. So slope goes next to the x, y-intercept goes at the end. So why don't you press pause and try 6, 7, and 8 on your own. Okay, so here's what I got for number 6. I wrote 1/2 and then x, and then I brought down -1. On 7, you could have had -2x plus 0, or that's just written as -2x. And then over here, 5/3 x minus 4. Alright, so those are kind of the easier parts. And now we're going to work into graphs. So you have to write the slope-intercept form equation. So we're writing an equation, so I need y equals mx plus b. So the two things you need the m, which is your slope, and then you need the b, which is your y-intercept. Okay, so you need to look at the graph and find the slope, and then find the y-intercept, and then you can write the equation of the line. So to find slope, you have to find 2 points that cross nicely. So there is a point that crosses nicely. Here's a point. And that's all I have. So to find the y-intercept, that's the easiest. It's going to be where it crosses this y-axis. And so that was at a 4. So your y-intercept is a 4. To find your slope, you're going to need to do your slope triangle and connect those dots, and then count to see, what is your rise over your run. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went up 5, and then you go over 2. So your slope is going to be 5/2. Okay. So now that you have the slope and the y-intercept, we're going to write an equation out of it. So your equation will be y equals 5/2, and then add your x, and then write your intercept plus 4. Okay. I know this looks about right because my slope is positive and that line is going up. So if your line is going up, your slope should always be positive. So let's try this one again. So I need to find the slope and the y-intercept. The y-intercept is the easiest to find. It's where it crosses your y-axis, so that would be a 2. And then to find your slope, We can always use the y-intercept point as one of our points, and then we need to find another point. So you could use this point up here, or you could have used this point right here. So make your slope triangle and see how far you rose and ran. So 1, 2, 3. I went up 3. And then I went over 2. 1, 2. So my slope is a 3 over 2. So now equation would be y equals your slope with an x and then your y-intercept. Okay? So your slope is going to go right here next to the x. Your y-intercept is going to go at the very end. Okay? This line was going up. My slope was positive. Looks right. All right, let's turn the page. All right, I'm going to try number 11 with you guys, and then I'm going to set you free to try 12 through 14. So first thing, let's find the y-intercept. That will be down there, which is at a -5. And then to find your slope, you need to find another point that crosses nicely, which would be right here. And then I'm going to do my slope triangle and see how far I went down and how far I went over. So I went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you go down, that will be a negative number. And then I went to the right 2. So your slope is going to be a -5 over 2. That slope makes sense because that line's going down, and so the slope should be negative. Lastly, you're going to write your equation. So y equals -5 over 2x, and then add on that y-intercept of -5. Okay? All right, I want you guys to try 12, 13, and 14 on your own. So press pause now. All right. For number 12, I got a slope of a 1 because they were going up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. And then my y-intercept was a -5, so you could have written 1x minus 5 or just an x minus 5. On 13, my y-intercept was a 2, and then I went down 2 and right 5, so that was why it was negative, plus that line is going down. So y equals -2 over 5x plus 2. On number 14, my y-intercept was between a -2 and a -4, so it was -3. I went up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1 to hit this other point. So 4 over 1, which we know is just a 4, so either one of those equations would be correct. All right. Here are some special cases. We've got horizontal and vertical lines. So number 15 would be a vertical line. Because it's going up and down. So 16 is a horizontal line. Because it's going from left to right. I totally forgot the L on that one. Okay, so with vertical lines, what axis is it hitting is what you have to ask yourself. So that hit the x-axis at a 4. So it's always going to be x equals a number for vertical lines. For horizontal lines, it hit the y-axis right here. So they're always going to be y equals a number. Okay? So, and then it's the number that it hits. So this hit x at a 4. So the equation will be x equals a 4. For number 16, it would be y equals a -2. Okay. When we talk about slope, this slope is called undefined. I think of undefined up and down. That's how you can remember that. If it's horizontal, it has a slope of a 0. Okay, because they're not going up any, but they are going over, over, over. And so that's why a slope of 0. If it's up and down, undefined. So I'll write that down. Up and down, undefined. Okay. Alright, so those are notes on writing equations of lines from graph and given slope and y-intercept. So what you can work on now, you're going to log in and use your iExcel, because I do not have paper copies for these. You're going to work on S5, S7, and S8, and then S18 were examples of those horizontal and vertical lines that we did. Goal would be an 80. If you can only get to a 70, that is fine. So if you want to get to a 70 and then try and get them to an 80, you could do that. But that is all. Thank you for watching.